The sound of paper being torn echoed through the bank like a gunshot. Pieces of the $820,000 check fell onto the marble floor of the First National Bank branch in Chicago. Some customers in line froze. A woman put her hand to her mouth. A young man quickly looked away, pretending he hadn't seen anything. Yusef Al-Mansour, 42, the bank's regional manager, tossed the fragments at Diana Foster's feet with a sneer. "Did you really think I was going to accept this?" His heavily accented Arabic voice cut through the silence. "A woman dressed like that, with a check like this? This is fraud. And I don't allow fraud in my agency." Diana Foster, 38, stood before him in worn jeans, a simple cotton blouse, and worn-out sneakers. Her curly hair was tied back in a messy bun. Her hands, once steady, now trembled slightly. She had woken up at 5:30 a.m. that Tuesday, as she always did. She served breakfast at the South Side Community Shelter before taking 2 buses downtown. The check was legitimate, payment for strategic consulting she had provided to Foster Development Group, her own company. But Yusef wouldn't even check it. "Mr. Al-Mansour," Diana said, keeping her voice steady despite the humiliation burning in her chest. "The check is real. I can provide documentation, I can." Documentation. Yusef laughed loudly, drawing even more attention. "Do you think I was born yesterday? I know people like you. They show up here with forged papers, trying to cheat the system. Where do you work? Cleaning houses? Waiting tables?" The words cut like blades. Diana felt each syllable piercing years of work, sacrifice, and achievements that no one there knew about. "I'm a businesswoman," she replied calmly. "Businesswoman," Yusef repeated, making quotation marks in the air with his fingers. "Sure you are. And I'm the president of the bank." He turned to the security guards. "Escort this woman to the exit. And put a restriction in the system. I don't want to see her here again." Diana closed her eyes for a second. It wasn't the first time. At 18, when she tried to open her first account, she was treated with the same contempt. At 25, when she asked for a $10,000 loan to start her business, she was turned down 6 times. Always the same story: judgmental looks, invasive questions, automatic distrust. But this time was different. This time, she had the power to do something about it. "All right," Diana said, picking up her worn bag from the floor. Her voice was calm, but there was something dangerous in her tranquility. "You just tore up a lot more than a check." Yusef rolled his eyes. "Threats now? You can leave before I call the police." Diana walked toward the exit. Her steps were firm, her spine straight. She wouldn't run. She wouldn't cry there. She would maintain the dignity that no one could take away from her. Outside, under the scorching Chicago sun, she took her cell phone out of her purse and dialed a number. 3 rings. "Dr. Whitmore, it's Diana Foster. That matter we discussed yesterday? Change my schedule. I want to take it on tomorrow." Pause. "Yes, tomorrow. And prepare the documentation on manager Yusef Al-Mansour. We'll need it." What Yusef didn't know, what no one at that bank knew, was that Diana Foster wasn't just a businesswoman. She was the new CEO of First National Bank, appointed by the board of directors exactly 48 hours ago in a confidential meeting. Her official inauguration was scheduled for the following Monday. But after the humiliation she had just suffered, she had changed her mind. She would start tomorrow. And Yusef Al-Mansour, who had just torn up $820,000 as if it were trash, would find out the hard way who was really in charge there. 20 years earlier, Diana had been a cleaning lady. She cleaned corporate offices while studying business administration at night. She raised her daughter Amber alone after her husband abandoned her while she was pregnant. Every penny she saved had a purpose: education, survival, the future. At 28, she founded Foster Consulting, a small strategic consulting firm. She started out serving local businesses in her neighborhood. At 32, she had contracts with 3 medium-sized corporations. At 35, her company was earning $8 million a year. But Diana remained invisible. She didn't show up at corporate events. She didn't post on social media. She dressed simply. She lived in the same modest house on the South Side. Her net worth exceeded $15 million, but no one would know by looking at her. And now, at 38, she had been chosen to lead one of the largest regional banks in the United States, an institution with $4.2 billion in assets and 847 employees. The board chose her precisely because of her history. They wanted someone who understood real people. Someone who didn't judge customers by their appearance. Someone who could transform the toxic culture that drove away thousands of customers every year. Diana was perfect. And Yusef Al-Mansour, in his blind arrogance, had just given her the perfect motivation to begin the cleanup that the bank so desperately needed. If you're feeling the tension of this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because what comes next will show you that underestimating the right people can cost you much more than a job. The next morning, at 7:30 a.m., Diana Foster parked her 2015 Honda Civic in the basement of First National Bank. Not in the customer parking lot, but in the space reserved for the executive board. This time, she wore an impeccable gray suit, discreet heels, and carried a leather briefcase. Her hair was loose in perfectly defined natural curls. She looked exactly what she was, a CEO about to take office. Dr. Whitmore, the bank's general counsel, was waiting for her in the executive lobby. He was a 62-year-old man with gray hair who had known Diana since she began consulting for the bank 3 years ago. "Diana, are you sure about this?" he asked, concerned. "We could wait until Monday. Make the transition official." "There's no time," she interrupted gently. "I have just suffered explicit discrimination within this institution. If it happened to me, how many other customers does it happen to every day?" Whitmore sighed. He knew she was right. "What do you want to do?" Diana opened her briefcase and took out several documents. "First, I want the complete report of complaints against Yusef Al-Mansour over the last 3 years. Second, access to the records of customers who have had business refused by him in the last year. Third, call an emergency meeting with all regional managers at 10 a.m. That's aggressive." "It's necessary." Whitmore nodded. "There's something else you should know. Al-Mansour isn't just a manager. He's the nephew of Hassan Al-Mansour, who owns 8% of the bank's shares. He's one of the largest individual investors." Diana paused, processing the information. This was a complication she hadn't expected. Firing Yusef would mean confronting not just an arrogant employee, but a member of a powerful family with influence on the board. "Does that change anything?" Whitmore asked. Diana thought of all the customers who had been humiliated. Of all the people judged by their appearance. Her own daughter Amber, who at 20 dreamed of studying economics but was afraid of banks because she saw how they treated her mother. "It doesn't change anything," she replied. "Prepare the documents." At 9:15 a.m., Diana was in her new office on the 22nd floor when she received the reports. She sat down and began to read. Page after page of complaints. A clear pattern emerged. A 67-year-old Latina woman had a $45,000 inheritance check refused. Yusef accused her of theft. She never returned to the bank. A 29-year-old black entrepreneur applied for a $75,000 business loan. Yusef denied it without review, saying people like him always go bankrupt. An Asian immigrant couple tried to open a joint account. Yusef questioned them about illegal immigration. They left in tears. A 54-year-old disabled man was denied entry to the VIP area, even though he was a premium customer. Yusef said he didn't fit the profile. 17 documented cases. Probably hundreds undocumented. Diana photographed each page with her cell phone. It was evidence. But it wouldn't be enough on its own. She needed something more compelling. She picked up the phone and called the teller who had witnessed her humiliation the day before, a 24-year-old woman named Sophie who had been working at the counter for 2 years. "Sophie, this is Diana Foster. The woman from yesterday. Do you remember me?" There was a nervous pause on the other end. "Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry about what happened. It was awful. It wasn't your fault. But I need your help. What Manager Al Mansour did to me, does he do to other people?" There was a long silence. Then Sophie whispered, "Every week. Sometimes every day. He chooses who to serve based on appearance. If the person doesn't look suitable, he makes up reasons to refuse them." "Would you officially testify to that?" "I could lose my job." Diana took a deep breath. "What if I guaranteed that not only would you not lose your job, but you would be promoted for doing the right thing?" "How can you guarantee that?" "You'll find out soon enough. Trust me." Sophie hesitated, but something in Diana's voice convinced her. "Okay. I'll testify." At 10 a.m. sharp, Diana entered the conference room on the 20th floor. 12 regional managers were already seated, confused about the emergency meeting. Youssef was among them, impeccable in his Italian suit, unaware of what was to come. When Diana entered, some managers looked at her curiously. Youssef recognized her immediately. His eyes widened. His face paled. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" He stood up, pointing. "You're that woman from yesterday. How did you get on this floor?" Diana walked calmly to the head of the table. She placed her briefcase on the mahogany surface. She looked each manager in the eye before speaking. "My name is Diana Foster. And as of now, I am the CEO of this bank." The silence was absolute. Youssef looked as if he had been punched. "This is ridiculous," he stammered. "You can't do this." "Mr. Al Mansour," Diana interrupted, her voice firm but controlled. "I suggest you sit down. We have a lot to discuss about your future at this institution." Whitmore entered through the side door, carrying a thick briefcase. "For those who still have doubts," he announced, "Diana Foster was appointed CEO by the Board of Directors last Monday. The inauguration was scheduled for 4 days from now, but due to urgent circumstances, it has been moved up." The managers began to murmur among themselves. Youssef sat down slowly, as if his legs could no longer support him. Diana opened her briefcase. "Yesterday, I came to this bank as a customer. I brought a legitimate check for $820,000. Manager Al Mansour not only refused it without verification, he tore it up in front of me, accused me of fraud, and kicked me out of the branch." She paused, letting the information sink in. "But I'm not the problem. The problem is the other 17 documented people who suffered the same treatment. And the hundreds who probably didn't report it." Diana slid copies of the reports across the table. Each manager took one. As they read, expressions of shock and discomfort took over their faces. "Mr. Al Mansour," Diana continued, "you have 2 options. Resign right now and leave with some dignity. Or face a full internal investigation that will result in dismissal for cause and possible legal action for discrimination." Youssef tried to regain his composure. "You can't do that. My uncle Hassan owns 8% of this bank. He won't let you ruin my career over a misunderstanding." "Your uncle Hassan," Diana interrupted, "was informed about this meeting an hour ago. He sent this message." She slid her phone across the table, showing him an email. Youssef read it, and the blood drained from his face completely. The message read, "Youssef, if the accusations are true, accept the consequences with dignity. You have brought shame not only on the bank, but on our family. I will not interfere." It was over. And Youssef knew it. Youssef Al Mansour looked around the table, searching for allies. He found only faces turned downward, avoiding eye contact. No one would defend him. No one wanted to be on the wrong side of the new CEO. "This is persecution," he said, his voice cracking. "You're doing this out of personal revenge. I made an error in judgment, but I don't deserve." Error in judgment. Diana interrupted, her voice sharp as a blade. "Mr. Al-Mansour, you didn't make a mistake. You practiced systematic discrimination for years. And yesterday, when you tore up my check, you weren't just humiliating a client. You were reinforcing a toxic culture that this institution has tolerated for too long." She picked up another folder and opened it. "Dr. Whitmore, please present the financial report." Whitmore stood up, turning on the projector. Numbers appeared on the wall. Over the past 3 years, this branch has lost 340 customers who have migrated to other institutions. When we analyzed their profiles, 82% of them were ethnic minorities or people who appeared to be less economically advantaged. The estimated loss in revenue, $2.3 million annually. Murmurs rippled across the table. Those numbers were devastating. "But there's more," Diana continued. "Mr. Al-Mansour, do you remember denying a $75,000 business loan to a young man named Andre Thompson 18 months ago?" Youssef hesitated. "I deny dozens of loans. I don't remember every." "Let me refresh your memory. Andre had a credit score of 780, solid collateral, and a business plan approved by 2 independent consultants. But you denied him because, according to witnesses, you said he didn't seem trustworthy." Diana clicked the remote control. A photo appeared on the screen. A smiling young black man stood next to a store with a sign that read, "Thompson Tech Solutions." Andre got a loan from another bank. Today, his company has annual revenues of $4 million. It employs 23 people. And guess which bank he doesn't do business with? Ours. Youssef turned even paler. Diana clicked again. Another photo. A Latina woman in front of a bakery. Maria Gonzalez. You accused her of stealing inheritance. She sued the bank for defamation. We lost $180,000 in the out-of-court settlement that you never knew about because it was buried by the previous management. But I knew. Because I reviewed every lawsuit filed against this institution in the last 5 years. Another photo. An Asian couple smiling in front of a house. The Kims. You questioned them about immigration when they tried to open a joint account. They are both American citizens born here. He is a doctor. She is a lawyer. They moved all their investments, over $800,000, to our competitor. The room was deathly quiet. Each manager processed the magnitude of the problem. "Mr. Al-Mansour," Diana said, her voice now lower but infinitely more dangerous. "You didn't just cost people their dignity. You cost the bank money. You cost it reputation. You cost it trust." Youssef tried to speak, but his voice failed him. Diana turned to the other managers. "I want to make something very clear to everyone here. This isn't just about one problematic employee. It's about the kind of institution we want to be. We can continue to be a bank that judges people by their appearance, that loses millions in revenue and lawsuits, that drives away talented clients. Or we can change." She paused, letting the words sink in. "Starting today, every manager in this institution will undergo mandatory training on diversity and inclusion. Every complaint of discrimination will be investigated by an independent committee. And every quarter, we will evaluate not only profit numbers, but customer satisfaction across all demographic profiles." One of the managers, a 50-year-old woman named Patricia, raised her hand timidly. "Ms. Foster, many of us knew there were problems. But we didn't have the power to change. We're ready to do things differently." Diana nodded. "I know, Patricia. And that's why you all still have jobs. But let me be clear, zero tolerance. A substantiated complaint of discrimination results in immediate dismissal. No second chances. She turned to Yusef one last time. As for you, Mr. Al-Mansour, your termination for cause is effective immediately. Security has already been called to escort you to your old office to collect your personal belongings. You have 30 minutes. Yusef stood up, staggering. For the first time, he seemed to truly understand the gravity of his actions. I didn't know you were. Exactly, Diana interrupted. You didn't know who I was. And that's exactly why you treated me that way. If I were an obvious CEO, wearing an expensive suit and jewelry, you would have treated me differently. But I was just a black woman in simple clothes. And that gave you permission in your mind to humiliate me. Tears began to form in Yusef's eyes. Not from genuine regret, but from self-pity as he realized he had lost everything. The people you mistreated, Diana continued, were just like me. Hard-working, honest, deserving of respect. But you never bothered to get to know them. You never checked their stories. You judged by appearances and destroyed opportunities. 2 security guards entered the room. Yusef looked at them, then at Diana, and finally lowered his head in complete defeat. As he was escorted out, the room remained silent. After the door closed, Diana took a deep breath. Sophie, you can come in now, she called. The young attendant entered nervously, looking around the room full of senior managers. Sophie, Diana said warmly, I'd like to introduce you to the rest of the leadership team. Starting today, you are our new customer experience coordinator. Your job will be to ensure that no customer is treated the way Mr. Al-Mansour treated me yesterday. Sophie was speechless. Ms. Foster, I don't know what to say. Say that you're going to do an exceptional job. Because I chose you specifically. You had the courage to speak up even though you were afraid of losing your job. That's the kind of integrity this bank needs. Applause filled the room. Sophie wiped tears from her eyes as the managers congratulated her. Diana looked out the panoramic window, seeing the city of Chicago stretch to the horizon. Somewhere out there were the Andre Thompsons, the Maria Gonzalezes, the thousands of people who deserved a chance but were denied it because of prejudice. She couldn't fix the past. But she could shape the future. And she would start today. 6 months later, First National Bank was unrecognizable. Diana Foster was in her 22nd floor office reviewing the quarterly numbers when Dr. Whitmore walked in with a rare smile on his face. You need to see this, he said, placing a report on the desk. Diana picked up the document. Customer satisfaction had risen from 64% to 91%. Complaints about discrimination had fallen to 0. And most impressive, 280 of the 340 customers who had migrated to other banks had returned. New customers from minority communities had increased by 340%. And there's more, Whitmore continued. Andre Thompson, that young man Yusef turned away, he transferred his entire business account here. For $0.2 million in annual turnover. Diana smiled. It wasn't about the numbers, but what they represented. Trust restored. Dignity returned. Opportunities created. That afternoon, she visited the branch where it all began. The place was different. Not physically, but in energy. Employees greeted each customer by name. Comfortable chairs replaced hard benches. There was even a children's corner with books and toys. Sophie, now radiant in her new position, coordinated the team with confidence she hadn't had 6 months ago. Ms. Foster. She waved when she saw Diana come in. Did you come to check on our work? I came to see how the best coordinator I've ever hired is doing. Sophie blushed. We're doing well. Today we helped a 73-year-old woman open her first investment account. She said she never had the courage to walk into a bank before. She was afraid of being judged. Diana felt a tightness in her chest. How many people lived like this? Afraid of places that should be accessible to everyone? You made a difference in her life, Diana said. No, Mrs. Foster. You did. By having the courage to change everything. That night, Diana had dinner with her daughter Amber in her modest apartment on the South Side. The home where she had raised her daughter alone, where she had spent sleepless nights worrying about bills, where she had built dreams brick by brick. Amber, now 23 and an economics student at Northwestern University, looked at her mother with admiration. Mom, I saw the article about you in Forbes magazine. CEO who transformed bank in 6 months. I'm so proud. Diana held her daughter's hand. You know what makes me most proud? Yesterday, a 19-year-old black woman came into the bank asking for advice on how to open her first account. Sophie spent an hour patiently explaining everything. The girl left smiling, saying she finally felt respected at a financial institution. How did you feel when Youssef tore up your check? Amber asked. Diana took a deep breath, remembering. I felt angry, humiliated, but mostly, I felt determined. Because I realized that if it happened to me, it happened to thousands of others. And I had the power to do something about it. What about Youssef? What happened to him? Diana had discreetly kept tabs on him. He's working at a car dealership. Average salary. Without the prestige he used to have. I heard his marriage is in crisis. His wife didn't take the drop in status well. Do you feel sorry for him? Diana thought carefully. I feel sorry for the man he could have been if he had chosen respect over arrogance. But I don't regret the consequences. He had years to change. He chose not to change until it was too late. The next day, Diana did something she had been planning for weeks. She personally visited each of Youssef's 17 documented victims. She brought official letters of apology from the bank. She offered financial compensation for the trauma they had suffered. And she invited each of them to become customers again, with personal guarantees of respectful treatment. Maria Gonzalez, the 67-year-old Latina woman, cried when she welcomed Diana into her bakery. I thought no one cared. I thought my pain didn't matter. Your pain has always mattered, Diana replied, holding her hands. And I'm sorry it took so long for someone to do something about it. Of the 17, 14 agreed to return. 3 decided to stay where they were, but thanked her for the gesture. Diana respected all of their decisions. A year after taking over as CEO, Diana was on stage at a national conference on corporate diversity. Hundreds of executives listened as she shared her story. When Youssef Al-Mansour tore up my check, she said into the microphone, he wasn't just tearing up paper. He was tearing up the dignity that took me 20 years to build. He was tearing up the hopes of all the people who look like me and fear being judged by their appearance. She paused, looking out at the audience. But you know what he couldn't tear up? My worth. My strength. My right to be in any space I've earned. Because real worth doesn't come from expensive clothes or fat bank accounts. It comes from character, work, and integrity. The audience rose to their feet in ovation. Youssef Al-Mansour lost everything because he confused appearance with essence. He judged covers without reading books. And he paid the price. But this story isn't about revenge. It's about justice. It's about ensuring that the next black woman, the next Latino youth, the next immigrant who walks into a bank is treated with the same respect as a billionaire in a suit. 3 years have passed since that day at the branch. First National Bank has become a national benchmark for inclusion. Profits have risen 47% during this period. Employee turnover has fallen to historic lows. And most importantly, 87% of customers said they felt respected and valued. Diana never changed. She continued to live on the South Side. She continued to serve coffee at the community shelter on Saturdays. She continued to wear simple clothes when she wasn't at official events. Because she had learned the most valuable lesson: true power is not in flaunting what you have, but in using what you have to lift others up. Yusuf al-Mansur tried to destroy Diana Foster because he couldn't see beyond her worn clothes and old purse. But he forgot that dignity isn't something you wear, it's something you carry. And true power doesn't need advertising. The best revenge was not to destroy Yusuf. It was to build a place where people like him could no longer destroy people like her. And today, somewhere in Chicago, a young woman is walking into a bank for the first time without fear of being judged. Because Diana Foster turned a moment of humiliation into a legacy of respect. If this story inspired you, if it reminded you that we should never judge people by their appearance, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share. Because somewhere there is another Yusuf who needs to learn this lesson. And another Diana who deserves to be seen for who she really is. Sometimes justice does not come with shouting. It comes with quiet dignity and power used for good.